Morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Glenn Tan speaking. This time, I'm continuing to talk about FCU, thermostat and controller, including the functions and also including how to do the wiring to BNS and settings. This presentation divides into these three parts. Next chapter, we will go to the wire controller for the FCU, which is for these two models. First, we go to this XE70. Here is the appearance of it. Here is the size, the same as previous. It is still 86 mm, and it is available for the cassette type, AC power, wall mounted, and floor ceiling type FCU. And here is the functional list of this one. The difference between this wire controller and the thermostat, I already make it as the orange color just for your reference. And here is the infrared receiver, which means it can receive the control signal from the wireless remote controller. Just open the back panel. Here is the inside. So you can find it. Here is this is the thermistor, which to detect the indoor room temperature. And also there are two terminals of it. The red one is connected to the FCU, the PCB. This wire, it is standard with this wire controller, no need to worry about. And this port, it is output the RS485, it connect with the BNS system. For this port, the wire, it is not standard. Here I just offer you the part code, especially the terminal, the socket, this one is perfect for this. So just for your reference, you can choose this to connect to the BNS system for better wiring. And this is how to do the commissioning setting for the XE70. Just follow these steps, then you will go to change the code here, and then to change the detail setting of the detail parameter to activate the function or change the parameter. And the code is just this one. The first is the room temperature sensor. We offer you three options, and according to your situation, you can choose either one of it. And next is the anti-cold or hot air function. This one is to prevent the cold air blew out at the startup period. Next, we will go to the BNS address setting and checking page. Just follow these steps. You can enter to change the address for BNS system. Just ensure the address for different wire controller or for different FCU, they should be different. Next is for the detail wiring for the BNS system. For the BNS system, there are two options. I divided into this blue color and orange color. So for the orange color, it is our latest one, which we apply the wire controller as an adapter. So you need to use this wire controller as to output the RS485 signal. The wiring, where to do the wiring, I already make it as the orange color, just for your reference. Either it is for the floor ceiling or the wall mounted AC type 1 and AC type 2. It is a little bit different. As for the blue color, this one it is our old wiring. It is still available. You need to use this Gateway ME30 as an adapter, which means the output from this one is not standard RS485 signal. You need an adapter to change it to be RS485. And how to change the address for the BNS, also located at this gateway ME30. And here is just to show you where to connect on the in.unit PCB. This is on the terminals, and this one is on the in.unit PCB. As for the key card control, and here just display as the entrance control or the door, it is a DC input, the on for no key card states. Here is the appearance of this ME30, and the wiring is just at this side. Here is for the power supply. You can just plug in here to get the power, and there are 3 ports of it. The first one is you need to connect to the FCU of the PCB, and this 2 is for the I285. You can select either one of it as the in and the other one as out, and all this one require the crystal sockets, and don't worry, this is all standard with this gateway. And as how to change the address, you can just open this panel. Here there are 2 dip switch for you, and this is just change for the gateway address, which is for this FCU. So you just need to ensure it should be different from each other. It's okay. And how to change it is just follow this table. You need to make it to be different. Actually, this table, it is a binary coding system. And for the SA2, it is reserved, no function. And more detail about the standard path is for the crystal punch, the length is 1 meter, and one end is crystal punch and the other end is 4 pin for you to connect to the PCB of this FCU. And all this wire is standard with this gateway, no need to buy the other device or components. This slide displays how to do the detailed wiring for the BNS system. It is group 2. This group 2 will support the Watt-mounted AC FCU, cassette tie FCU, or the floor-ceiling FCU. And for this one, just like what I said, we have 2 options. Either you can apply this XE70 as an adapter, or use our old gateway ME30. And here I just display how to do the detailed wiring. You can just follow this one to do the wiring, then you can connect to the PC to control this FCU. The maximum also is the same, 255 in dot units. And here is a heads up that the protocol from the Y controller for cassette tie and watt-mounted DC, these 2 FCU is different from the PCB. Please no misconnection, which means for the DC tie watt-mounted FCU and the cassette tie, if you connect from the Y controller, please no misconnect in this combination of the group 2. Next, we will go to this XE78. Here is the appearance, so you can find it is similar as the XE70, the previous one, and also it has the infrared receiver here. For the function list, is also very similar. The difference, I already make it as the red color. The first is the fan speed. We have 7 steps, and the next is it can modular control. That means it can group control the in dot units. As for the size, it is a 68mm. It's the same. And here is the detailed wiring on this Y controller. So you can find that this red socket still for the FCU PCB, and also there is a thermostat or the thermistor inside to detect the indoor room temperature. But for this one, it's no function. It is reserved. We are not control from here for the BNS. And here is the detailed wiring for this XE78. First is for the modular, or we call group control. You need to follow this pictures to do the wiring for the group control. Currently, we only support the DC type wall mounted. The max we can support up to 10 FCU, and also as you know that for the group control from here, all the setting is the same. They cannot separate. And here is what you need to do on the DC type FCU. First is to change the address just from this one to change it to be different. And here is this switch. This one is for different functions, but only the first step is has meaning. This is for how the indoor fan operate after the room temperature reach the set point. On means stop, off means we may operate. After the wiring, you still need to do the setting on the wire controller, which is to tell the system you already combine this, for example, 4 or 5 DC type wall mounted together as a group. And here, just follow these steps. You need to go to this page to change this value. Make it the same as the connected or the group control FCU quantity. Next, we go to the details setting for the commissioning, which is to change the different functions or change the parameters for this FCU. And just follow these steps. You need to go to different codes. Here is for different parameter or function to activate or deactivate or change the parameter. For this meaning, and you can just look at this one and you will get what is said. Next, we will go to how to change the BNS address. You can just follow these steps. To change the address is okay, even for a group control. Even they are group, but they should be different address for the BNS control. And here is a heads up that after you set the address for the BNS, you are allowed to dismantle this Y controller for the later control, which means after you set the BNS address, and no need this Y controller. Here is the detailed wiring for this BNS wiring group 3, and for this group 3, the BNS Y control is only from the FCU PCB itself. For the Y controller, the purpose of it is just to change the address. So the first one is for the blue color. The blue color is just for the connection to the Y controller. The purpose of it is just to change the BNS address, and after that you can dismantle. And for the orange color, this one is for the BNS control. So for the cassette tie, we recommend to apply this wire with a special terminal, and for the other end, it's already peeled out. The pop code already is the same as the previous. For the DC wall mounted, and here is the ST1, the 4 and 5 is for the BNS control, which is at the terminal here. And also for this DC watt mounted, this Wi-Fi module, this one, it is reserved. Currently, it is no function. And this CN3 is for the group control wiring, which means you need to connect to the other DC watt mounted from here. It's okay. Also, it is for the door control or the key card control. It is displayed here, the entrance control. It is DC input and on for no key card state. Here is the topological graph for this BNS wiring group 3. So for this one, you can find that this Y controller is not connected to the BNS system. The purpose of it is just to change the BNS address for this FCU. So just from here, you can combine them together. Actually, from here is already the standard RS-485 signal. What you need to do is just apply this RS-485 converter for the PC. So you can use this one to control the FCU. And also here is the heads up that as the protocol from the PCB is not completely the same, which means different from the type of from the Y controller, which is for the floor ceiling, watt mounted, AC, FCU. Please note misconnection. That's all for this part of the presentation. If you still have any other question, please feel free to contact me on my personal email address.